Better. I'm a little
Okay,
tiny bit better.
we're ready to rock and roll. Okay, everyone, I'd like to welcome you all to the Planning and Development Committee meeting of Wednesday, May 18th. And let me get my script. Hold on a sec. I should know this by now. Consistent with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, this meeting will be conducted by remote participation. The public may not physically attend this meeting, but every effort will be made to allow the public to view and listen to the meeting in real time and participate when necessary. If you're calling in on a phone, you can press *9 to request to speak. If you're watching on a computer or device, there's a raised hand button that you can tap or press to request to speak. Please use either of these options to be recognized to speak. I am filling in for Councilor P&D Chair Jason Grote tonight. I'm Val Gilman. I'm the Vice Chair. And we have Tracy O'Neill, who is a member of P&D. And we have Scott Memard filling in today for Jason. And Scott is our first alternate. I also would like to recognize Jeff Wordley. Jeff, you can video in, just wave. That would be great. And thank you for being here. And Jill Cahill, our CAO, and I believe Bill Sanborn, is he here yet, Joe? You're muted.
Do not see Bill yet, but let's see if he may have came in through participants. Sherry, do you see him?
I do not see him yet.
Okay, I will check in on him.
Okay, and I'm going to look to see who the attendees are right now. We've got Matt Colley, Olivia Perez from the Chamber, Patty Gates, Retail, Maria Santini, who is a restaurant, Adam Farber, who is Mark Adrian, Maria Cacciolio, who I think is, it's a restaurant owner, and Jalapenos is restaurant, obviously. So it's great to have some business owners on the call to listen. So this is what I would like to do tonight. The reason why I asked to take up City Council Order 2022-016 Gilman, which is amending the GZO by inserting a new section 5.32, temporary zoning relief to businesses recovering from COVID-19 pandemic, is because I wanted to be very clear on what the process is, because we realize that the summer is quickly here and there's a lot of moving parts right now. So today is not the day that our P&D group is going to be voting to recommend this to the full council. It's the first day that we just wanted to outline the process. So Jill Cahill is here to help answer questions, and I believe Bill Sanborn will be here shortly. Yes, Joe? Okay.
He's trying right now, so
Okay.
if we see him pop up. And
Terrific. Okay, that's great. And Sherry Carvelis, who is our clerk of committees, is here tonight, and we appreciate it. And Betsy Cardarelli is next on the agenda for poll petition, and she knows that she's probably going to be on about a half an hour. So Bill Sanborn is here. That's great. So, Bill, what I'd like to do, thank you, welcome. Bill is our building inspector. And he has a meeting he's got to go to. So let me tell you how I would like to spend the next 10 minutes. So there are different steps that we have to take in terms of permitting this order right now. And for example, the planning board is taking this up on June 2nd at the planning board meeting, and they're going to advertise that as a public hearing. And then we'll hear their recommendation to us, because they're an advisory board to us, on June 8th at P&D. And then we make a recommendation here at P&D, and the public hearing is going to be scheduled for June 14th. And the reason why we wanted to have Bill here today, and I know that Olivia and Ken Reel were great to get the information out to the members of the chamber of what's in the packet, because I wanted everyone to see this information, is there'll be, if the city council votes to approve this on June 14th, and we'll need 6 votes of approval, then there's a lot of stuff that has to happen from that day until you actually are able to open. And we thought it would be really helpful to have Bill Sanborn here so he can just discuss what those things are. And then he can go on to his meeting that he has, and Jill Cahill will stay. And what we'd like to do is I want to review the order with everybody, and then I will entertain questions from the restaurant owners and the business owners, questions only, because today is not a public hearing. It's not an advertised public hearing. So Bill, if you could just describe what's going to happen if the city council votes to approve this on June 14th, what the things are that you know happen from that point forward until the day that they might be able to open for business outdoor.
All right, thank you very much. It will be similar, the program will be similar to what we used in the past. We'll try to use the same program that's online for outdoor seating. So you'll permit through Viewpoint. One of the things we will need this year is we'll need a plan showing the layout of your seating outside, and we'll need to see the path in around the seats and an exit out. We will need to see emergency lights for outside in case the power fails. I believe we did that in the past. And the number of seats can't exceed the number that the occupancy for the building now. Our whole basis is going to be on public safety. That's what we're going to focus on to make sure, everybody has a good time and nobody gets hurt. The other issue that's going to come up, and this has come up through other communities, is I'll use ADA access, but it isn't ADA. It's the access board, Massachusetts Access Board. So these areas are going to have to be handicap accessible, which in a lot of cases may require a ramp off the curb to the seat. That ramp will have to have a railing on it for accessibility. We will be looking for that issue. The other issue is to remind everybody that once this is approved.
Bill, could you try to speak a little bit louder?
Okay, once.
Oh, that's great. Thank you.
Closer, so
Awesome.
once the council approves this change or amendment, then we'll have to go to licensing board, and you'll have to have
we're not hearing you. Oh, now you're frozen. Sorry. It's better if you speak softer, because then we heard you when you were speaking softer. Then go ahead, keep going.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we lost you at licensing board.
Okay, so you will have to file an application for the licensing board for the extension of premises. Hopefully, we can work with the chair for the licensing board and expedite that as we did last year. So we'll work to do that. And other than that, we're pretty much going to be the same, hopefully. But public safety, just to remind everybody, public safety is what we're looking for. So we're going to be looking for emergency lights. We're going to be looking for means of egress, and we're going to be looking for a plan showing the outdoor seating that shows those on it.
So Bill, if the restaurant owners if they decided to use, yeah, I can hear you now. So if the restaurant owners were going to share some parking space for outdoor dining, if that was something that they agree to, how would they show that to you in the plans?
For the parking spaces, I'm not sure.
Yeah, for the use of outdoor dining. If the restaurants decided to bond together to say, this year we're only going to take 2 spots in this location or something rather than 4 or whatever, they would just show that to you as a collective group? Is that what would happen?
Yes.
With that? Okay.
Yes, so I think one of the restaurants did that last year. They
Okay.
both would submit a plan, submit their application onto Viewpoint, and they both show the same plan, just the hours of operation. So like that on
Okay.
the description, and the other restaurant would do the same.
Okay, that's really helpful. And can you just elaborate on the occupancy issue a little bit?
Right, so the occupancy issue comes to, bathrooms are based on the occupancy loads. A lot of the restaurants are grandfathered under the number of bathrooms that they have because they're pre-existing from the plumbing code requirement for them. If you are to add more seats than you currently are permitted for, you may have to add bathrooms or upgrade bathrooms that are there. So therefore, we're requiring that they keep the same occupancy that they have inside and only move tables to the outside. So if your occupancy load is for 75 people, that 75 people will include both outside and inside.
Okay, that's helpful. Is there anything else from the point of us voting to support this, if that is the will of the council on June 14th, that you need to let them know just to anticipate what those steps will be from a planning standpoint? Is there anything else that you didn't include?
Not that I'm thinking of. I just want to remind them that, as soon as this is approved, they're going to need to apply for their extension of premises to the licensing board. Because again, that's a public meeting, I believe, and we'll work with the chair with that committee to make that process go as smooth as possible, but that may be a bit of a holdup. And once that's approved, then they can go online and apply for their permits, for the
Okay.
outside seating permit on Viewpoint.
Okay, and I've spoken to Melissa Texera, who chairs the licensing board, and sent her the information for tonight's packet, so at least she's aware of what's going on. So she has a heads up. And Jill, before Bill goes, you have some info on the Jersey barriers in terms of their availability if we decide to move forward with this, because they're going to be used for the Fiesta. So could you just describe that on behalf of the DPW?
Yes, no problem. Thank you, and thank you, Madam Chair, for tonight, for bringing this forward. As I think everyone on the call knows, I've been working on this the past 2 years. The administration is open to this conversation, obviously, but we want to be realistic about the operationalizing it, because there's a lot of things that were not happening in the past 2 years will be happening this year. So we can't really approach it. It won't be the exact same as last year. Or the year before, because things continue to change. So one of those being the Jersey barriers that we have used, DPW has used the past 2 years to create outdoor dining. We did not have Fiesta. So those are the same Jersey barriers that make Fiesta possible downtown in the city of Gloucester. So I spoke with Joe Lucido, who you guys all know because you worked closely with him. And so we agreed that the date that we would be able to have things up and running would be July 1. So that would be the first date. And I just want to let the folks know, and Bill and I think have talked about this, the permitting piece through Viewpoint will be the same, and it's already established. If possible, and Bill and I can clarify this between now and the public hearing at planning board, if it makes sense for Bill and the licensing board to have the application process moving, we're more than happy to open that so that the day it goes, so Bill's team can start reviewing it the day after the city council vote. So if that helps move things forward. So we're here to help move things forward quickly. But we do understand that's a complicated issue, and there are interests on both sides. And so we're looking forward to the discussion at planning board.
Great. That's really helpful. Thank you. I'm going to excuse Bill because he was good enough to squeeze in 10 minutes before his meeting. So Bill, thank you so much, and appreciate it. You were very helpful. Sherry, if you would, you would be good enough to, I'd like to begin by just reviewing with the folks, with council, and also with the folks that are on the call tonight. We now have about 9. If you could just screen share the council order, I'd just like to review that. And this is in everyone's packet. Our planning director actually helped me with this a week ago Friday, so we could get this on the consent agenda and get things moving. So we appreciate Greg Catamatori's assistance. So the purpose and duration of this is to provide temporary zoning relief to businesses in the city of Gloucester recovering from COVID-19 pandemic to facilitate, to provide opportunities to stimulate economic activity during this time. The city takes this action to continue to allow businesses some flexible options in use of outdoor spaces to the extent reasonably safe and feasible to operate as approved by the city. This section, I think that says 5.32 is temporary and shall expire on December 1st, 2022. This section shall apply only to temporary structures and to temporary uses and only to be structures and uses described below. Such structures and uses shall not remain in the site or in use after the expiration of the section unless otherwise permitted by law. And then under the temporary permit exemption, existing businesses uses as identified in section 2.3.4 business uses, including existing retail and consumers services as identified in section 2.3.4, section 27, and restaurants as identified in section 2.3.4, section 9 of the zoning ordinance shall be allowed to temporarily add outdoor seating, display, or takeout without requiring a special permit from the zoning board of appeals or the city council or approval of the planning board under section 5.9 site plan review as applicable. However, in no instance shall such use allowance result in an increase in the approval occupancy limits of an establishment. Such outdoor seating, display, or takeout operations may be proposed on public or private sidewalks and parking spaces or in parking lots. However, all other codes, requirements, and permission shall be in effect. In lieu of a special permit or site plan review requirements, applicants for outdoor seating, display, or takeout shall be required to obtain a temporary use permit from the building department after an administrative application review by, including but not limited to, the building department, health department, public safety departments, to ensure the safe use of outdoor space. And this order be referred to Planning and Development Standing Committee, which is here today. And we'll be reviewing this again, like I said, on June 8th. And then to the Planning Board, and they'll be reviewing this at a public hearing, which will be advertised on June 2nd. And the final recommendation is from the City Council. So I was just hoping that this would help everyone. So if you could just clear that for a second. And the only other things I wanted to mention, and then we can open this up first to council questions, and then I will allow for questions only from the business owners and the restaurant owners, because this isn't a public hearing. So what I wanted to do is just quickly mention what the chamber has done so far. The chamber is and this was, thank you, Olivia, for giving a some things to share with the councilors. The chamber has facilitated meeting with the city and restaurateurs and with Main Street retailers separately to discuss outdoor dining this year in Main Street. Restaurants are strongly in favor. Retailers, with a couple of exceptions, are opposed, at least unless three main concerns are addressed. Number one, use of fewer parking spaces. Number two, the obligated parking spaces are used throughout the full day as much as possible, at least lunch and dinner. And three, consideration for some compensation to the city for loss of parking revenue. For example, Rockport restaurants are paying $250 for the season per parking space. Mayor has expressed support for equitable allocation of parking spaces for outside dining. GMG's informal poll, I see Joey Shimataro just joined the call, shows strong support, 90% of responses for outdoor dining in Gloucester. Restaurants located in proximity to each other, for example, Sugar Mags, Passports, and Franklin, have expressed a willingness to share parking spaces for outdoor dining. Most restaurants plan to be open for lunch or brunch most days, except Franklin, which will continue to be a dinner-only option. Neighboring communities, including Ipswich, Rockport, Salem, and Newburyport, are supporting outdoor dining extension of premises again this year. Several communities, including Salem and Rockport in 2021, have additionally supported outside dining with heaters, tables, planters, using, et cetera, using grant funds. Loss of Main Street parking spaces concerns can be addressed in part with strategic designation of curbside pickup, takeout spaces, coupled with wayfinding signage directing drivers to nearby parking on Rogers and Middle Streets. That would be stuff that the planning board would focus on. That's really not the details that the city council is going to be overseeing. And then the chamber will continue to seek and provide information about this issue to all businesses. I also have a letter that came in today from the business owners, the retailers, and it was included Adam Farber from Mark Adrian's, Patty Gates from Cape Ann Olive Oil, Susan and Don Boyer from Toodaloo's, Joe Shalino from the Weather Vane, Caroline Harvey and Lucas Cotterman from Dogtown Books, Barbara Keown from the Dress Code, Tom and Colleen Lance from the Brass Monkey, Peggy Russell Prop Gallery, and Arwin Severance, the bookstore of Gloucester. I just got this middle of the day, actually at 10:04, so I will make sure that that we put this in our packet. That will be part of the next meeting, so everybody can read that. But so I just want to make sure that we share it. But they had concerns that are similar to what the that the chamber had announced to us. So that summarizes, I think, the details. Jill, have I left anything out before I ask the counselors to talk on process only? We're not deliberating right now because we're going to wait to our advisory planning board advises us in terms of their thoughts. But did I not cover anything that you feel administration would like to say?
No, I think you covered it. And like I said, we're here to make sure we raise the issues related to operationalizing it, as well as if it passes, making it go as quickly as possible. And I just want to reiterate that Council President and I have talked about if things move quickly and we get to where we need to go, we will also work closely with the chamber and to have some sort of follow-up meeting to try to clarify things and answer any further questions that come up either in planning board or P&D or city council. And we'll try to keep that line of communication open with businesses on all the downtown businesses on this. So we're here to help.
Great. And Jill, would you suggest that the business owners and the restaurant owners kind of start discussing how they might be able to condense some of the parking before the June 2nd planning board? Is that helpful from a process standpoint, from your perspective?
I mean, again, the people on the call know that I've been working on this the past few years. I'm not sure. Yes, obviously anything that they can come up with, the answer would be yes. And I'm sure the planning board, because the planning board is there to talk about things like parking. So I'm sure that would be helpful in the discussion.
Okay.
I think it was probably included in there. I think it was something like 10 to 12 parking spaces in the past 2 years. And just so people don't forget, the only other two pieces I would add is that there was a miscommunication that was out and about last year about both sides of the street. I want to make sure people understand that there's not something in place that excludes one side of the street from the other. And I just want to make sure people on both the east end from the west end understand that there wouldn't be exclusions from our perspective.
Okay. That's really helpful.
Equity is definitely the most important piece of this discussion to the mayor.
Okay, thank
For
you.
restaurants and retailers and services. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So counselors, before we take questions only from the folks that are on the call, do you have any questions to ask of Jill Cahill, Tracy, or Scott? Tracy's the Ward 2 City Councilor, so, and Scott is the Ward 1 City Councilor.
I don't have any questions.
Okay, thank you. Scott,
I-
are you good?
Like Tracy, I think that Val, I think that you and Jill have covered it very thoroughly. There are, divergent interests, and we all wanted to support all the players involved, restaurants and downtown businesses.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how we can best accommodate that.
Terrific. All right, so show of hands, and we're going to try to keep these questions pretty brief because we've got other items on the agenda, and this is not the public hearing. But for any of you that are on the call, Matt Colley, Olivia, Patty Gates, Maria Figueredo, Adam Farber, Maria Carciolo, Jalapenos, Melissa Sala, Jennifer Cullen, Joey Shimataro, Tobin Dominic. If any of you would like to ask a question in terms of process, we're all ears right now, and we can work on getting the answers for you if we don't know them today. So would you raise your hand if you'd like to speak, and we'll bring you in? Any of you wish to speak? Adam Farber. So let's start with you, Adam, and then we'll go to Matt Colley. So Adam, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you for hosting this meeting. It's really important. I hope we can have further conversations before things are finalized. Although it's sounding like things are getting close to finalized. So I just want to preface by saying I was an advocate for this for 2 years when we absolutely needed it. I'm clearly more skeptical now, but to get to specific questions as you asked, I understand it's really up to the P&D to talk about the details of wayfinding, signage towards other parking, and I would also add signage for a 2-hour parking limit on Main Street that's lacking right now, and greater parking enforcement to better utilize the spaces that are left. I understand that's a P&D issue, but will that be considered by the city council to be put all together and made this happen in conjunction? Because, to allow one and not figure out the other half, I think is only half the problem.
So to answer your question, is actually that specific information is more planning board, correct, Joe? Yeah, that's more planning board.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. I didn't mean P&D, I meant planning board.
Okay, all right, great.
The question is, will council take recommendations on that into consideration?
Right, but so we'll wait to hear what planning board comes out with in terms of that detail. But we all want to work together to do what's right. I think Jill made that very clear, and but we know that there's some things that we might be able to tighten up to make it more of a collaborative marriage between the retailers and the restaurant owners. So
the other specific question I have is, would the city council consider any requirement for the spaces to be used more hours of the day so that, the empty parking spots aren't unused during retail open hours? And you don't have to answer that now. It's just something, it's a question. It's sort of an open-ended.
So your question is, Adam, what is the council's role in possibly redefining hours of
Well,
operations?
In order to extend premises, the give and take might be restaurants would be required to be serving lunch so that, the spots aren't empty and unutilized till 5 o'clock when restaurants open for dinner.
Okay.
And use 7 days a week instead of, 5 days a week.
Yeah. So I don't know, I can't answer that on behalf of administration or P&D or city council, but it's a good question. So that will be a question that we will find out answers for. So thank you.
Thank you. One final question.
Yeah.
Is this, how much precedent is this setting for the future years? And,
Well, this is going to have an expiration date, and it might be earlier than December 31st. Council might decide that we want to make the expiration date Columbus Day or something, the middle of October, because it's not practical to do outdoor dining after that. But that will be the will of the council, and we'll listen to what people think, right? So, we are always up for looking at better ways, and you know, and with more planning, we can always amend our ordinances to be more beneficial for all parties involved. So this isn't, this is just an extension of the good work that our CAO did during the emergency order to try to help the restaurants stay in business. And at that point, we couldn't really be inside very much. So it was really, I thought it was really great that we did this hurry up offense during COVID to get this permitted. So we're just trying to regroup and say what's next and how can we help, and that's why we're here. So hopefully that answers that question. Jill, did I leave out anything on that?
No, I just wanted to add, and I think most people on this call know, because most people on this call were involved in our local rapid recovery plan. And Council President, we talked about this, and I know Council Memhard, you know this. And outdoor dining was a piece of it. They provided an outdoor dining toolkit, and yes, there's the concept is to right, the conversation and the concept is to really talk about what this looks like long term. How does this benefit downtown? How does this fit into your downtown revitalization plan in general? So I think, you know, the fact that this hit in the middle of a transition with an election put us at a bit of a disadvantage. But I think that whether this would, no matter which way this goes, with City Council and Planning Board, I think that the conversation remains open. So if we end up without outdoor dining this year, I don't think the conversation's over. And if we end up with outdoor dining this year, I don't think that's the future of outdoor dining set in stone forever. I'd love to see us really work together on Main Street. I'd love to see a business improvement district put in place and management organization for downtown that really thinks about downtown as a whole. So I don't want people to think that this is the forever future, one way or the other, good or bad. But that I think it's a continuous improvement process, and that I look forward. I think downtown has a lot to offer. So.
Thank you
Great,
so much.
thank you. Adam, I really appreciate you being here. Thank you. Matt Colley, will you come on in and I believe you're the owner of Short and Main, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep, you are not mistaken. Thanks very much. I have a question that I think is really for Bill Sanborn. So I guess in terms of like the build out and like understanding exactly what the restrictions and requirements are, should I just be reaching?
Why don't you ask, and then Jill, Bill works for Jill, so you know, she can try to get that information.
So I was told last year, I think it was the fire inspector who told me that we couldn't use any wood in the construction of our outdoor spaces. And I don't know if that is still the case. But like just in regards, we wanted to build a platform to level the seating with the sidewalk, which would check that box of that ADA accessibility. And I was having a hard time understanding. It seemed like they didn't want us to do anything, but I was told that we couldn't use any wood because it was a fire hazard. And so I don't know, Jill, if you have any information about that.
Yeah, Matt, let's, first I want to give a shout out to Short and Main, because when you talk about equity, these guys were incredible. They only have one space in front of their, just the way they're located. They ended up with a really little space, but went for it anyway. And, you know, anyway, they were great. And we looked into trying to figure out cooperative ways to get alcohol across the street, but turns out that's still illegal. So, so thank you, Matt and Short and Main. Let me follow up with Bill and follow up with you directly. I have your contact information. I think there's two parts of that question. I think one, let me find out where that came from with the fire inspector in particular. Let me dig a little deeper on that piece. And then the second part of that question, right, speaks to that long-term preparation. And one of the pieces that you'll see in the outdoor dining toolkit is it's possible, you know, that we should be doing this cleaner, better, safer, more ADA accessible, prettier. in the long run. So I may have a short-term answer and a long-term answer for you, Matt, but I will follow up with I'm actually going to contact the fire inspector directly, and then get back to you.
Okay, thank
Great.
you.
I'll try to do it tomorrow, but if I don't, Thursdays tend to get crazy.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
I spend.
anytime before July 1st, really.
Okay. Okay,
And-
thank you.
Keep in mind that Sherry Carvelis, who is our clerk of committee, she does incredibly detailed minutes. And these will be in the packet available for people to see on Friday. So you'll see a summary of all these questions and a summary of the meeting. So we encourage Olivia to share those with other business owners so everybody is on the same page right now, because we know that time is of the essence and we want to be in lockstep and be very clear with what the expectations are. Olivia, your hand is raised, so can we bring Olivia in? Thank you, Matt. Olivia, introduce yourself, and it's been nice working with you the last couple of weeks. So share your questions.
Yes. Hi, everyone. Olivia Prezidas from the Greater Cape Ann Chamber. Just really quick, I wanted to correct something that was in the meeting notes that was sent. Rockport, their fees for the season, it's $250 for the season. If the restaurant occupies only one space, it's $500 for the season for 2 parking spaces. So I just wanted to clarify that for the record. And then I did just have a question for discussions moving forward, not this year, but for next year. Would the council or the administration consider creating a working group of retailers and restaurants and, the building inspector or the fire chief all together to kind of come to equitable plan that would make the majority of people happy, I guess. So that is just a question I have, and that's all I have to say. Thank you so much for, the opportunity of listening to both sides. So thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. And Jill, you can answer that question because I know what the answer is. So, but
Yeah,
go ahead.
thank you.
I'll let you
And
take
thank
that
you.
one.
Thank you to Olivia and the chamber. They reached out, as I said, again, this hit in the middle of a transition. So they did reach out early to the administration, probably January or February. We tried to put this on a fast track and, add it to the list, right? So thank you to the chamber for at least reaching out and kind of bringing those groups together to talk in the first place and giving us some place to start. Absolutely. We, again, it goes back to the rapid recovery plan. It's been part of the discussion. We've actually, just as a side note, we've been able to, at BNF Tomorrow You'll Learn, we've successfully funded 2 of the 12 projects. And we have a grant proposal out for the Business Improvement District, and this is on that as well. So whether it's part of a business improvement district or a separate initiative, we would be happy to convene all those players and have a working group. Again, the
And I would
goal
also,
here is success of downtown. So
great. And I would also be willing to appoint a member of the city council if you wanted to have a counselor on that team. So anyway, thank you. Any other questions, Olivia?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So counselors, now that we've heard this, I've opened this up for questions for everybody. Jeff, do you, as a additional member of the council, but is not on this committee, do you have any questions to add to this list that we have?
I'll just start by saying thank you, Val, for putting this on the agenda. I know it was sort of a challenge to get it to this point, and it's not going to be easy for restaurants to pull this together in this time frame. But I appreciate that we're all doing the best we can to get the input to make this decision. My only question well, 2 questions. Is there an opportunity, and I think Jill may have said yes, but that if this passes, people could have already replied to the licensing board in anticipation of approval, so that if they're ready to go June 14th, we're ready to go June 14th, the restaurants will be able to go as soon as possible.
I think the answer to that is that I'm going to just keep Melissa Texera really involved in the process so she knows the timing and how things are going. And, I know that I have her commitment to try to, she has to post meetings at least 48 hours in advance. So she has to adhere to that. But she's flexible. She wants to help businesses as much as she can. And she, so I think, that can work. So we'll do everything we can to make this happen, but we want it to be a good feeling of collaboration between the restaurant owners and the business owners. And the more we can see that partnership, it will make things really much easier to have this be a win-win. A second question, Jeff?
Yes, so I don't love Jersey barriers in general aesthetically, and they take up a lot of space, but if this is a go, are there any alternatives to Jersey barriers, or can we get another Jersey barrier or two before July 1st? So that's 2 weeks of business potentially lost if we have to wait till the fiesta is done with the Jersey barriers.
Yeah, and go ahead, Jill.
Sure. So it's interesting because I toured Newburyport, and I've seen some of the other places, and somehow Newburyport did not have Jersey barriers, but if you look into the state regulations, it specifically does say if it is on the street with parking where cars go by, you do have to have an immovable barrier of some type, right? Obviously, at the end of the day, as Bill said, and I will always support and reiterate, health and safety come first every time. Another piece of the puzzle that with more time couldn't be looked into, are there planters, are there this? So the short version of that is my interpretation and how I read the state laws. If you are sitting in the street, you have to have an immovable barrier, and no, we do not have the ability to get additional ones or operationalize that in this time. As you can imagine, DPW, happy to work with us, always on our team. But again, we have things that weren't open during COVID are all open now. So we have Fiesta coming up. We have new beach parking reservations coming up. We have a different schedule this season than we did for the 2 seasons where we were really kind of closed and capacity was different. So all of our sports are playing, all of our fields are open, so it's just it's an entirely different creature than it was the past 2 years. So, but again, long-term, and I encourage everybody to go check out the outdoor dining toolkit that was created by the state through the rapid recovery planning effort. It's part of our plan that's on the city website, has a lot of incredible tools and could be very helpful in a long-term strategy.
Great, thank you. All right, so are you all set, Jeff? Because we have to keep, go ahead.
Good point. I didn't say necessarily that it can be done that quickly, but is there another Jersey barrier or 2 or 3 in the city? Can we get some somewhere else? Can we get planters? Can we look at bollards, other sorts of immovable objects that can get, if the council says yes, and licensing board works collaboratively, that we don't lose 2 more weeks of the summer for the.
Not in this time frame. That's the discussion I already had with DPW and just made clear. And Council President, I just want to point out that Joey Shimataro has his hand up as well.
Great, thank you. All right, it sounds like we've had a good conversation here on the council, and I'll ask Joey Shimataro if you'd like to ask a question. We're not deliberating right now because this isn't the public hearing, but we'd love to help with any questions.
Right. Well, I just had a question as far as, I know I put up a poll, and I know Gloucester Bites put up a poll that was overwhelmingly, the ratio of people that really wanted this was overwhelming. And as far as, residents of the city, the question I had was, how much do you take the citizens' input as far as them wanting it, and that as being taxpayers, as far as in your decision if you let this go forward, because they, the city, that the residents have a stake as well, and if it's 90%, I think Gloucester Bites was even higher than 90% of the people that were really wanted it. How does that factor into the equation when you're making a decision?
So
all.
I'll take that and I'll let Jill piggyback on what I say. But, you know, we'll be planning 2 public hearings. One is at the planning board on June 2nd. And the other one is in front of, the city council on June 14th. So that will be an opportunity to hear from everybody. So that's why I strongly believe that the more collaboration that can occur in the meantime, you know, working out the details between the restaurant owners and the business owners to see how maybe some of the outdoor dining could be consolidated. So there's always people eating that are taking up spaces, you know, and I know that those conversations have occurred at the chamber. And those are things that people have been thinking about and collaborating about already, which is great. So I hope that answers your question, Joey, in terms of, you know, this is a listening process, but we have to go through the steps of permitting, and there's protocol and things that we have to do. And that's why I thought it would be we're kind of on a hurry up offense right now. I feel like Tom Brady, and we're trying to get as much information out to everyone proactively, because we realize you've got short time. We realize that you're going to have to get tense. We realize so much stuff is to be done, but we just thought if we could get a head start on what the process is, it would help you all understand how we can work together on this and partner and have consistent expectations. So, Jill, do you have anything to add?
Well, I want to thank Joey. The GMG crew was instrumental in us getting out information the past 2 years about whether it was outdoor dining or beaches or, you know, all of the above, everything, block parties, everything we trying to figure out our way through COVID. The microphone that Joey holds is incredibly powerful, and we are grateful for it. You know, the mayor said from the start, I want to hear from both sides. I want to hear what people are thinking. You know, thank you. Joey did his poll. Gloucester Bites did their poll. We heard internally from both sides as well. And, you know, for us, for the mayor, it's definitely, he wants to hear from the people. Your polls obviously demonstrated one side. We also, unfortunately, I've also heard the other side, not unfortunately, fortunately, right? We want to hear both sides. And this is a really split issue. So I support and I agree with the council president on this. The public hearing is a really important time for the councilors, because at the end of the day, this is not the mayor's decision. He can't unilaterally do this. Actually, zoning has to start at planning board and council. So I completely support what Council President Gilman said. It's important for the councilors and the planning board to hear from the people, and the mayor's listening, and his direction to us is operationalize it and make it happen if that's the will of the council, which is the will of the people. So we'll be here.
Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Joey. Okay, I see no more hands. So for those of you that came, we really totally appreciate it. You can watch this on Zoom tomorrow by the end of the day, or the end of the morning, maybe by 11. So if you know of folks that work with you that would like to see it, it's there. The draft minutes will be in the packet for Tuesday's approval by Friday morning of this week. So you can at least see the draft minutes of today's meeting. And you know the dates that we've given you. Again, planning board, June 2nd, public hearing, city council, June 14th, public hearing. And then on June 8th, we'll be back here at P&D to hear the advice and the recommendation from the planning board. So back here at P&D. So anyway, thank you. It's really nice to have all these different people. Oh, Pat Hurd is here as well, and Janet Muzzy. So, geez, this has been one of the most popular P&D meetings that we've had in quite a while. So thank you all for coming. So, so I think we're all set, Jill. So we appreciate it. Thanks. Thank you. Next order of business is the public hearing. Poll petition 2022-002, National Grid to install beginning at a point approximately 30 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Biskie Head Point and continuing approximately 100 feet in a northwest direction. Installation of 100 feet plus or minus 2.3 inches concrete encased PVC conduit and all appurtenances from pole 7719, continuing approximately 100 feet northwest to DOT state-owned heavy-duty hand hole, continued from May 4th, 2022. So I would like to open the public hearing and ask our friend Betsy Cardarelli to tell us about this poll petition. So Betsy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I apologize, my camera is still not working and I tried another device, so I will be off screen. My name is Elizabeth Cardarelli. I'm a distribution designer at National Grid. Our office is at 44 River Street, Beverly, Massachusetts. The request for conduit installation on Crafts Road is actually a DOT, a state job that's going to be coming up. It was a request by the DOT for a camera installation at Route 128. And due to the location, we decided to go with underground conduit installation at this location. So the request is for approximately 100 feet, could be minus, plus or minus a few feet. And as you can see on the plan, I'm not sure you've probably reviewed it, but there is a state highway layout between public road and then state property. In this case, typically what we do is we don't install our own infrastructure within the state property. We allow them to take it from that point on. So our request is to have the state install these conduit. They will be doing the road opening permit. They will be installing it on behalf of us because it is their request. And then once we install our wire, we will take over ownership and maintain it from that point on. But the point of demarcation will be just inside of the state property where they will take their own private underground electrical service to a pedestal and then to a camera pole. So this is a little bit different than a standard customer job.
Okay, thank you. And Betsy, have the abutters been notified?
As far as I know, we requested a list and I think Sherry may have that information.
Yes, the butters were notified on May 2nd.
Okay, thank you. Betsy, do you have anything else to add?
I did want to mention, I know this is a busy area with traffic, where we're not doing the installation and it is the entrance to a property. It is right at the entrance of a driveway. There may be some questions or concerns that may come up, before this project begins and the road opening permit is being obtained. If for some reason there are questions and concerns about timing on when this road opening is going to happen, I'm more than happy to put either Sherry or somebody in contact with the person at the DOT that will be handling it. That way there they can discuss timing so that they're not blocking somebody's driveway.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you for doing that. Is there anyone else on the call that would like to speak in favor during this public hearing? Seeing none, is there anyone that would like to speak in opposition? Seeing none. Sherry, is there any written communication that we have received?
Yes, we received one communication from Michael Hill, the Director of the Public Works. I'll share that.
Yep, great. And we have a Jeff Seagal who just logged on. I don't know, Jeff, if you're here for the public hearing for the poll petition for Biskie Head Point, continuing approximately 100 feet in northwest direction. Would you just raise your hand so I know that you're here for that matter? If you don't raise your hand, I assume you're here for something else. So if you would read through this, Sherry, for the record, and I would appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. It's addressed to the P&D Committee Chair, Councilor Grow, and the rest of the committee from Mike Hale, the Director of Public Works, regarding poll petition 2022-002 Crafts Road. It reads, Councilors, the Department of Public Works has reviewed the above mentioned application by National Grid to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures under and across the public way named below. Crafts Road, National Grid to install beginning at a point approximately 300 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Biskie Head Point and continuing approximately 100 feet in a northwest direction. Installation of 100 feet plus or minus of 2 3-inch concrete encased PVC conduit in all appurtenances from pole number 7719, continuing approximately 100 feet northwest to DOT state-owned heavy duty handhole. In an attempt to maintain the quality of city roadways, Department of Public Works requests the following be required of the applicant. Number 1, notification to the Department of Public Works 72 hours in advance of the proposed work. A construction schedule will be prepared by the applicant for review and acceptance by the Department of Public Works. Number 2, proposed excavation may only occur during accepted road opening and construction season, the 15th of March to the 15th of November. Number 3, in the absence of a detailed construction plan, the Department of Public Works requests all proposed conduits and appurtenances shall be placed so as to cause minimum conflict with existing underground utility services. Number 4, all excavations must be secured at all times. 5, all excavated trenches shall be patched flush with the surrounding asphalt using hot mix asphalt binder at the end of each workday to minimize pedestrian hazards. Asphalt shall be applied in 2 lifts of 2 inches totaling 4 inches. 6, for the length of conduit in the sidewalk, restoration must be 2 feet before the conduit begins and 2 feet after the conduit ends in front to back of the sidewalk. Number 7, all final paving shall be done in consultation with the Department of Public Works and an agreed upon final paving plan executed by the applicant. Should you have any questions regarding the conditions requested, please do not hesitate to contact my office.
Thank you, Sherry. Councilors, do you have any questions about this poll petition that you would like to ask Betsy? Councilor Memard.
Betsy, it would just be helpful to understand from the grid's point of view what the purpose or the need for this additional conduit is in terms of general background.
Sure. The Department of Transportation is installing security cameras for the 128 strip, Concord Street, I believe Essex. There's quite a few locations where they're going to be working within state property. However, we do not have a lot of infrastructure within the state property lines. Typically, it passes either by it, under some of the bridges. And in this case, where they wanted to place the camera would have put a pole. If we were to petition for a pole install, it would have put a pole right on the ramp of 128. And from our perspective, that's a safety issue. If there was ever an ice storm and a car was to slide into it, not only would we obviously take on that maintenance of having to replace and repair in the middle of an emergency, but it could hurt somebody. So we never want to put any type of overhead equipment like that on that kind of a ramp, especially where they're going. They're actually installing it pretty far out there on the ramp. If it was more closer to the Crafts Road side, we probably would have gone that route. So we decided to have them install underground conduit, and we will provide them with an underground service where we will bring wire to that handhole inside of the property, and then the state will own everything from that handhole directly to their camera pole.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Sure.
Thank you. Councilor O'Neill.
Yes, hi. You've mentioned Concord Street and then you mentioned Crafts Road. Each one of those roads are on opposite sides of the highway. So I'm not quite sure where the camera is going to be installed.
The Department of Transportation is actually doing quite a few jobs on the North Shore right now. So when I said Concord Street, I meant in addition to Crafts Road, there is another job coming up on Concord Street. The DOT is going to be doing quite a few of these where they're putting cameras up at 128. So I was just referencing the fact that the Department of Transportation is doing this type of camera work. They're putting in quite a few cameras.
So they're
So
not
the-
connected to each other.
Not at all.
The camera on Concord Street, which is not what you're talking about today, though. But
Correct.
it would be on Concord Street and it would overlook 128 from Concord Street?
Yes, yes.
Okay, because I can understand the one on Crafts Road overlooking the highway, but Concord Street is kind of down. So,
It is. And
Okay,
it's right at,
that-
they put them at the bridges,
okay.
so that it's not directly on the highway.
And
but
that's
there
for
are-
another day anyway, so thank you.
Exactly, exactly.
Any other questions, counselors? Council Worthy, do you have any questions on the poll petition?
No, but thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, if there are no more questions, and I don't see any hands raised for any folks to speak in favor or opposition, I will close the public hearing. And I'm going to do the committee report. First, I move to waive the reading of the conditions listed in the motion as they were included in the letter submitted by the Director of Public Works as read by the Clerk of Committees, and I so move.
Second.
Sorry.
I saw Tracy using her word. I'll take Tracy's lips because she was moving them before you said second. Thank you, Scott. So Gilman made the motion to waive the reading, and O'Neill seconded it. Roll call vote. Tracy,
Yes,
Scott,
Yes.
Gilman, yes. The yeses have it, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. So here's the motion. I move to permit, P&D moves to permit National Grid to construct a line of underground electric conduits, including the necessary sustaining and protecting fixtures along and across the public way, and to install beginning at a point approximately 300 feet west of the center line of the intersection of Biskie Head Point and continuing approximately 100 feet in a northwest direction. Installation of 100 feet plus or minus 2,3 inches concrete encased PVC conduit in all appurtenances from pole number 7719, continuing approximately 100 feet northwest to DOT state-owned heavy-duty handhole as shown on a plan included in the application dated February 28th, 2022. And I so move.
second.
Motion made by Gilman, seconded by Council O'Neill. Is there a discussion, councilors?
I'm just trying to be clear about the location. I'm sorry I hadn't looked at the earlier application, but this is right in front of or adjoining to the property of Grand Banks, the building supply company. That's on Crafts Road, prior to the intersection over with the overlook over the bridge over the highway.
Betsy, can you confirm that?
This is actually one Crafts Road that this conduit would pass by. I'm not sure of the address that you're referring to on that business.
Okay.
This is not at a bridge. This is actually right at the ramp. So we may be in
Okay.
the wrong.
Oh, we're talking about Nichols Candy. Okay, that's helpful.
Yes.
So don't do it around Valentine's Day.
I will make sure to tell them.
Thank you. Any further discussion, councilors? I would just like to say I'd really appreciate it, Betsy, to take you up on your offer of being in touch with Sherry so the property owner will know a little bit more details of when this will be happening. I think that would be very appreciated.
Absolutely. I am not clear at this point what their plan was for timing,
Mhm.
but I'll definitely try to find out.
Great, thank you. So we have a roll call vote that we need to take here. Counselor O'Neill,
Yes.
Counselor Memhard,
Yes, thank you.
Counselor Gilman. Yes, the yeses have it. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you so much, Betsy, for being here.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you. You too. The third item of business is a special event permit application request for street closures for the Fishtown Horribles Parade on July 3rd, 2022. And we were expecting Nicole Tucker. I don't know if Nicole is here. Let me just check.
Counselor Gilman.
Attendees, we have Elizabeth, Jeff Seagal, Pat Hurd, and Gary T. So I don't see her on the call. It's been fully vetted at the Special Events Committee. It's a consistent request. Without objection, counselors, I have no problem with us approving this unless you want to wait. If we wait until June 10th, we're getting pretty close to the date of the Horribles Parade.
It would actually be June 8th is the next.
June 8th, I'm sorry. Thank you.
I would suggest that you move ahead with the approval. I think that you'll find that there are not many constituents in Gloucester who would be in opposition to the Horribles Parade.
Tracy, are you cool with that?
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
Okay. So just to explain then a couple of details, and Sherry, you can help me out here. But the Nicole Tucker is the contact person. It's the Fishtown Horribles Parade. It starts, it's on July 3rd, and the start time is 6 p.m. The end time is 8. The vendor name is David Tucker. I know David. Trying to see if there's anything else that I need to mention, because the reason why the city council permits this is because of road closures. So 20 floats, 6 marshals, viewing stations. I don't know if there's anything else that came out of special events that we need to cover except to cover the street closures, which are Leslie O. Johnson Road, Centennial Ave, Western Ave, Roger Street, Manuel F. Lewis Street, East Main Street, Pleasant Street, Prospect Street, Railroad Ave, Washington Street, Centennial Ave, Emerson Ave, Lincoln Ave, Blimmen Ave during the parade.
Sounds like a familiar route. I've walked it a couple of times.
Sherry, are you comfortable with us going ahead and just making the motion? Is there anything else that you need to mention? I do know that it's been vetted through special events.
It was.
So that means that police, fire, everybody has signed off.
Yep.
Anything else that we need to know?
I don't believe so. I think the application explains everything, and it's the same as in previous years.
Okay, great. So I move to
We don't
recommend.
have to make any special provisions for COVID. I'm so sorry,
Right.
Council President, but we don't make any special provisions for COVID at this time in terms of a public event like this.
Yes, it's one of the
permit.
conditions on this. Yep, so it'll be number 9. And so we will read all the conditions. It's long, but I'll take the liberty of reading it. So I move to recommend that Planning and Development Committee permit the Horribles Parade Committee to hold the Fishtown Horribles Parade on Sunday, July 3rd, 2022 and to close affected city roadways, including Leslie O. Johnson Road, Centennial Ave, Western Ave, Rogers Street, Manuel F. Lewis Street, East Main Street, Pleasant Street, Prospect Street, Railroad Ave, Washington Street, Centennial Ave, Emerson Ave, Lincoln Ave, Blimmen Ave, during the parade with the following conditions. Number one, certificate of insurance. A certificate of insurance naming the city of Gloucester as an additional insured party is to be filed with the city clerk's office on or before June 24th, 2022. 2, road closure. Police department and the fire department approvals of the plans for the Fishtown Horribles on July 3rd, 2022 have been received through the Special Events Advisory Committee. Roads to be closed are to be marked with signage directing the public as to the duration of the closure and alternate routes. Traffic and parking plan and police detail information by the police department to be filed with the police chief. And any substantial changes as determined by either the police or fire chief or their designees to the route or related to safety issues may require city council approval. Number 3, refuse and recycling in comfort stations. All refuse and recycling due to this event must be removed by the organizer. Any portable toilets with handicap accessibility are to be provided and maintained by the organizer, placed the evening before the event or early in the morning of the day of the event, and be removed by 9 a.m. on July 4th, 2022. 4, emergency services. All requirements of Gloucester Fire Department EMS must be met. 5, staffing. Event staff is to have cell phones and to be identified by the public with distinct shirts. A list of event staff and their cell phone numbers is to be submitted to the police, fire, and DPW departments. 6, notification of immediate abutters and businesses to parade route. Notice shall be made by the event organizer by hand or by mail no later than 7 days in advance of the event to function halls, motels and hotels, and other businesses along the parade route. 7, responsibility of the Fishtown Horribles Parade Committee. The applicant is also required to obtain any necessary approvals from the health department. It is the sole responsibility of the Horribles Parade Committee to ensure that all required documentation is timely filed with the appropriate city departments as indicated. Failure to comply with any conditions precedent may result in permit revocation. Applicant is also required to comply with any requirements made by departments through the Special Events Advisory Committee. 8, vendors for the event. The Horribles Parade Committee must obtain transient vendor licenses for non-food vendors from the city clerk's office at least 1 week prior to the event. And B, the Horribles Parade Committee is to provide a vendor list to the city clerk and the chief of police at least 1 week prior to the event. 9, please note that given the ongoing national response to COVID-19, circumstances may require the Special Events Advisory Committee to modify your event and can include canceling your event. And I so move.
Second.
Moved by Gilman, seconded by O'Neill. Is there a discussion, counselors? Any discussion about the Horribles Parade, counselors?
No?
Okay. It's a great tradition, and I love this parade. So I will be supporting this. So roll call vote. Counselor O'Neill.
Yes.
Counselor Memhard.
I guess so, yes.
Oh, it's so nice having you at your first P&D meeting. So Counselor Gilman, yes. The yeses have it, 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Thank you so much, Sherry. If you would reach out to Nicole tomorrow and let her know that we went ahead and permitted this on her behalf, I'm sure she'll be happy.
Okay.
So there's nothing else to discuss tonight. So is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'd like to have our meetings just carry on indefinitely.
Would you like to second the motion, Counselor?
Okay, all right. Arm is twisted.
Roll call vote. Counselor O'Neill,
Yes.
Council Memard,
Yes, thank you very much.
Council Gilman, yes. The yeses have it. 3 in favor, 0 opposed. Jeff Worley, thank you for being on the call. And Sherry, as always, thank you for your good work. Good night, everybody.
Thanks, you guys.
Be well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sherry.
Good night.
Good night. Nice to